Okay, one question for every Western Conference team. We're going to start with Dallas. For Dallas, I'm going to go with Derek Lively and what his second year jump looks like. Yeah, Gafford was starting in the playoffs, but for me, I think it's time for Lively to start over him. I think we would all agree that Lively has all defense potential. I mean, hell, the advanced stats would say, like in the playoffs especially, he was pretty much already at that level, you know? But it's more than just rim protection. I mean, we saw how mobile he was, where he could, close out to OKC shooters if they needed him to. If he ended up switched just all throughout the playoffs, then he would hold up well. I mean, just to rehash my memory, I saw one random little clip where, he blocked Drew after switching onto him. And then as far as making plays on the roll, he has shown enough of, little Euro steps or one dribble after screening for Kyrie and Luka and then two to the ball on those guys a lot, to where it's either, he's making the next play for somebody in the corner or on the wing, or he's able to finish himself. And then, of course, there's the lobs. There's the fact that in the playoffs, he was at, nearly 3 offensive rebounds a game, and that was with playing about 22 minutes just on average. So some of this is just simply more minutes and just getting a little stronger and that whole thing. I just want to see what it looks like for Lively in year 2. Now we're going kind of random. I'm now going to go to the Warriors. They have not traded for Markkanen. If that happens, then obviously things change, but I think I'm going to go to the lineup situation for the Warriors, because you can imagine a bunch of different lineups for this team, but it's tough to find the one that has the perfect balance of size, shooting, extra ball handling, perimeter defense around Steph and Draymond. Also, not starting Kuminga at this point just feels kind of weird. So for example, Draymond and Trace Jackson Davis together, which maximizes your size in the front court, because yeah, Draymond can still play center, but do you really want him doing basically full-time center at this age, you know? Those two had a net rating of positive 10 in about 200 minutes together this previous season. But then if you add, let's say, Kuminga into that mix, and again, we'll see what ends up happening with Markkanen, but Kuminga and Jackson Davis were a big negative together. Now, Draymond was only able to play with those two on the court together, so Jackson Davis, Kuminga, and Draymond. It was only 20 minutes, so that's not a sample size at all. But it's okay, so if Kuminga's trying to get downhill, and then Jackson Davis and Draymond are there. Jackson Davis is going to be a little more around the rim. Draymond's guy is still paying attention to him, because if you ignore Draymond completely, then he'll run the DHO with Steph. But you're not glued to Draymond as if he's a knockdown shooter, right? And so does that lineup maximize Kuminga's ability to just attack downhill, right? Then you think about, okay, well, we want to maximize the spacing. Well, then you're taking size off the floor. Is that going to hurt your rebounding and all that stuff? And then you might be asking, well, can we make up the difference with Kuminga and Wiggins on the floor together? Because those two with Draymond had success, Draymond playing at center this previous season. Although even then, Wiggins, whether it's potentially still recovering from the rib injury, dealing with off-the-court stuff, because he's missed time for personal reasons. And then you got Warriors fans who just really want Moody to get more minutes, and you've got the balance between Hield and Melton, where Melton will give you more on-ball defense, Hield will give you more movement shooting, but Melton is also still a good shooter, assuming that he's healthy. But then some of these lineups, you're also well, we need a little more ball handling, so let's get Pods out there. I mean, he grabs rebounds and takes charges too. So yeah, it's just kind of weird. And I do feel like whatever Steve Kerr ends up going with, Warriors fans are probably going to disagree with him. But Steph will do his thing. Also, shout out Slow-Mo. Now we go to OKC. I've definitely talked about this one before, but it just fascinates me so much with this team, is just the Chet pairing. They're definitely going to play a lot together. I mean, with the contract they gave him, he's definitely playing a lot. That is definitely an option against the Nuggets. I mean, we saw the Cat Gobert front court, Cat on Jokic, Gobert help off Aaron Gordon. Jokic was still able to do his thing, but it did slow down the machine known as the Denver Nuggets offense, and so OKC's got that option. I mean, hell, they could try it out against the Wolves if they end up seeing each other in the playoffs. It wasn't the only reason they lost to Dallas, but part of that loss to Dallas was the minutes without Chet were rough, and then also they lost the rebounding battle by a considerable amount in some of those games. And the other thing with that lineup is, I two-man game with SGA and J-Dub, as well as Chet being more of a power forward in those lineups, and just how that looks like and how he's being guarded by wings and stuff. OKC has the ability now with this to kind of become two different teams at times. You can be what they were this previous season. The 5-out spacing is maximized, Chet matchup nightmare for centers, and then you can be more of a typical team where even still your spacing is going to be really good because of how skilled Chet is. So how often they go to it, and for what potential playoff matchups they might lean on it more, that type of thing. But also, they're going to be good defensively no matter what lineup they go to as well, because again, Chet is just so versatile, whether it's rim protection, whether it's help defense, and then, of course, Ihart's good defensively too. Next, we're going to go to the Grizzlies. I want to talk about Jaren Jackson. Last year for the Grizzlies was the season from hell. I mean, so many injuries. Yeah, he did have the most points per game of his career at 22.5, but his efficiency dipped by quite a bit. Like, I think on offense, the best version of Jaren is 2 years ago, which was his Defensive Player of the Year season, but he was 19 a game on 61 true shooting. I like that more than what he was this previous season, which was, again, over 20 points, but the efficiency was worse. And I get it. Like, he had to create more for himself a little bit, but the three ball also dipped as well. And that's been a bit of a thing with Jaren's career because, you know, his second year in the league, he's awesome from three. Then he comes back after missing basically his whole third season. The three ball kind of dips, and then it kind of goes back up 2 years ago. And so where is his three ball at? How crafty is he looking at just operating in the middle of the floor where, you know, he'll screen on the ball and then he gets it with a good defender ready for him? And is it the awkward footwork finishes, or is it the more crafty, like, you know, pump fakes and spin moves and Euro steps and physical finishes? Because I feel like with Jaren, it's been kind of a mixed bag with that stuff. I mean, I think the stat that I'm always looking at with him is like his shooting percentages on like floater range. And so 2 years ago, he shot 50% from 3 to 10 feet. This previous year, it was 44%. And that's just me reading Basketball Reference. And of course, Ja being back is going to help this. Desmond Bane being healthy for a whole season will help it. But yeah. Now we go to Phoenix. My question for the Suns, this one is going to be me kind of repeating the watchability tier list video. My question is really just, are they going to annoy me for a second straight season? Like, I get it. Beal's going to be healthy and all this stuff. I just want this team to not feel as directionless. Budenholzer's here now. He's going to prioritize getting more threes up. I just don't want to watch this team and get the feeling of it's just like Book, KD, and Beal just kind of going off of vibes. I get it. The roster's not perfect. They did just draft Ryan Dunn as well as Oso Ighodaro. Both of them are very good defensively. I think the Suns could use just a jolt of something on that side of the floor. Monte Morris gives them this really fundamentally sound point guard who can allow their big three. He's not going to start, but in lineups where you can get him out there with probably like two of those guys, it can allow them to be a little more off the ball. And any sort of screen setting between the big three for the big three that they can consistently get, that would be nice. And then Nurkic, Grayson Allen, and Royce O'Neal are here. Now we are going to the Spurs. Jeremy Sohan remains one of the more interesting guys in the league to me. Because on one end, you see the potential as just the ultimate Swiss Army knife guy. On the other end, you see, well, he can't really shoot, and so what does that mean? He got to 30% from three this year, okay? And 77% on free throws. It's still not a whole lot of attempts on either one, but it's progress. Speaking of the Suns, I decided to look at Sohan's baskets in a 20-point game he had against the Suns. It was one of the last games he played this previous season. You got buckets where he's going in transition. He's like screening for Devin Vassell to get into like a pick-and-pop two-pointer, or he's getting floaters after like running little screen actions with Trey Jones or whatever. Like he's doing all this as a wing player. And then defensively, of course, he can switch and he can guard many positions and everything. And him and Wemby together. If you do the lineup data, but you started in like mid-December, so when the Spurs went away from the Sohan at point guard experiment, those two were +3 in like nearly 800 minutes with a defensive rating of 108, which is just really good. So there's evidence he can be a positive for him. Also, his offensive rebounding might be a little underrated. It was basically a 2 a game this previous season, so we'll see, man. The jumper's still going to be the big thing, but yeah, Sohan, very interesting. Now we're going to go to the Clippers. So I've already said how defensively they've got a lot of good guys between Chris Dunn, Batum, Kawhi, Zubats, T-Man, and so I'm not going to lean on that. I'm more so just going to wonder if the vibes are going to be good, because something happened with this team, chemistry-wise, flow-wise, energy-wise, whatever, like in the second half of last season, because of course they had that amazing run where they found just the perfect balance between, like, yeah, it's Harden, Kawhi, and PG, and they all want to, like, do their own stuff and, like, pick and roll and ISO, but also can we blend it enough with off-ball sets and whatever. And so PG being gone now, I mean, of course, Harden and Kawhi are going to be Harden and Kawhi. But also there were, like, some suspect quotes where it was like, you know, PG was saying, well, we got to recapture the energy we had from earlier in the year, and somebody asked Ty Lue about that, and Ty Lue basically just said, hey, go ask PG. Of course, their transition defense was not good for pretty much the whole season as well, which is not encouraging. And I think some people might say, well, it was because of the extension that never came for PG, and that was the reason why. I don't want to attempt to be that much of like a body language doctor or whatever. I'm just saying sometime around the second half of the year, a lot of the energy was just zapped from the team, and that was before Kawhi got hurt with like 7 games left to go in the regular season. Now we go to the Lakers. I kind of have multiple questions here. Number one, which is how good LeBron and AD look in Team USA. Will that give the front office a little more comfort to make some sort of an aggressive move? The second one is if JJ Redick will actually have this team looking different. I mean, Redick, if you've paid attention to any of his press conference stuff, like he's referenced getting more threes up. He's talked about the Lakers' set offense being better than their freelance offense last year, something that Cranjus McBasketball was talking about all the time on Twitter. A pretty well-known Lakers analyst. And so where that leads off with, I think, to me, is he has said he wants to use AD as more of a hub on offense. And so I picture AD getting the ball more like on the elbow or on the wing and then movement around that. And so if that means D'Lo or Reeves running more off the ball, if that means Rui taking more threes, which is another thing JJ has said he wants, is Rui specifically to take more, then we'll see. I mean, he was over 40% last year, but it was only on like 3.5 a game. So we'll see. Next, we're going to go to the Nuggets. I'm actually not going to go with the, how they recover from the loss of KCP. I'm actually going to talk about MPJ. And look, MPJ's been damn good for them. I understand he was not good against the Wolves, but in general, like his efficiency, his growth as like a team defender, his rebound, and obviously he's one of the best shooters in the league. This previous regular season, he played 81 games. It's the most he's had in a regular season. He had a combined 82 games played between the playoffs and the regular season if you look at when they won the finals. And so I wonder if we've all just taken for granted the idea of MPJ basically being like a very efficient 17, 18 points a game guy. Like perhaps there's another level to get to for him. Now, maybe that's just me being too optimistic. Perhaps the back injuries have just made it to where this is about the most he can do. The Nuggets offense is just so comfortable with everything they do at this point, even with KCP gone. Like it's still going to be flowing. It's still going to be the Jokic-Murray two-man games. MPJ again, his off-ball sets and everything. Like all that's still going to happen. But I do wonder if like a little bit more can end up on MPJ, whether it's more shots, potentially him showing growth as a ball handler. Like, no, he's not going to be suddenly running a million pick and rolls per game. But I do just wonder, at 26 years old, now another year removed from when the back stuff was preventing him from playing, if there's going to be a jump there. It would not surprise me. Now we're going to the Blazers, going to be talking about Shaedon Sharpe, who only played 32 games this previous season. Sharpe had a 5-game stretch in late November, early December, where he scored over 20 points on good efficiency for all 5 of those games. The common theme with those 5 games is that the Blazers had someone not in the game who takes shots. Between Simons, Grant, or Brogdon, like among those 5 games, like one of them was going to be out, right? And then once everybody came back, Sharpe's shot attempts went down, and then he got hurt, and then he had like a little 5-game stretch where he was able to play, and then after that he missed the rest of the season. So to me, there's evidence that suggests with more of a green light, Sharpe can cook. And looking at some of the baskets he had in that 5-game stretch, like, yeah, he does get some catch and shoots or some cuts, but he's also running just like simple screen actions with Ayton to where you can get into like pull-up twos. Like he's making some step backs. He had one crazy dunk over Walker Kessler, the occasional step back or pull-up 3 as well. Like there's reason to believe that Sharpe can create his own offense. And maybe I'm just holding on to this a little too much, but I remember the point totals he was putting up towards the tail end of his rookie season when he was getting the ball more as well. And so we'll just see how much of that we get to see this season between Simons and Scoot and Grant and Ayton, all guys who are going to be looking to run something or shoot the ball. Denny's going to get minutes too, but Sharpe, he's talented. Now we're going to go to the Wolves. So I feel like Dillingham is kind of the one question I've really got. Like I know Ant is going to make another jump, and maybe you could say, well, Karl Anthony Towns wasn't good against Dallas. Is there some sort of question for Cat? I mean, Cat's entering his 10th season. I think we know who he is at this point. So I think I'm just going to end up on Dillingham, where they kind of, they don't need him to be good right away, but they really would like him to be good right away. I mean, they traded 2 real picks for the dude. I mean, an unprotected way down the road, and the other one was a top 1 protected pick swap. And for as much as we all love Mike Conley, we all know that he's in his mid-30s there. So Dillingham just showing an instant impact would be just great. Just pull-up shooting, playmaking. Defensively, they'll have to cover for him. They've got the guys to do it, and then we'll see how his finishing does in the NBA as well. Next up, we're going to go to the Pelicans. I'm just looking at the center position, man. Yeah, the Ingram rumors are out there, but I don't feel like talking about that. As of right now, they got Yves Missi, who was their 21st pick, and they got Daniel Tice. Look, Tice is cool. He'll do all the role player stuff. He'll play hard. He'll get fouled, and the refs won't call it. He is a fine rotation big guy. But if you're the Pelicans, you'd probably want to beef up your center situation a bit more. I know people want them to get Jared Allen. It doesn't seem like Cleveland is going to cooperate on that one. As far as Missi, he's a mobile center who can block shots and finish plays at the rim. So a lot of potential, but he was the 21st pick, so we'll see. Now we go to the Jazz. Of course, the big question right now is what happens with Markkanen. But besides that, I'll just keep this one short. Between Keontae, Taylor Hendricks, Walker Kessler, offensively rim protection, he still got it. Cody Williams, who looked good in Summer League. Does anybody just really hit this year? And with Keontae, it is kind of wild. If you go look at his game logs, like the last chunk of last season, it's like one game he'll have 20-something, next game he'll have like 9. So we'll see. Now we go to the Rockets, where I think it's just about Jalen Green this year, man, where his last season was just weird as hell, where a decent amount of the season, definitely the first half, at the least. Like one game he goes off, and then he'll have like 2 or 3 games in a row where the pull-up jumpers are not going in, and that's the thing with him. He takes a lot of pull-up jumpers. He took 7 pull-up shots per game, according to NBA.com last season. And I'm pretty sure that NBA.com includes step backs within their pull-up jumper thing. But then he had this stretch later in the year where there was a 40-point game, a 30-point game, and then a number of 20-point games as well, where all the tough shots are going in. And yes, while Şengün was out for the specific stretch I'm talking about, there was a set of games right before Şengün went out where Jalen Green was starting to heat up. And so if you're the Rockets, I mean, you've got to get Jalen Green to be as efficient as he can be while playing off of the Fred Şengün 2-man game, but also like incorporating him into, his own Şengün 2-man game as well. And maybe it really just is as simple as the pull-ups went in or they didn't for Jalen Green, and now there's some extra pressure because he's extension eligible. I mean, Mobley just got the big extension from Cleveland. Cade and Scotty Barnes got them as well. Jalen Green sees that. But as far as how the Rockets front office feels about giving him that contract, I mean, I don't know as of right now. Again, he's had moments of going crazy, but it's got to happen more often. And now we finally have the Kings. Apologies, Kings fans. Again, it was random. You ended up last. It's probably just Keegan Murray. Does he take another jump defensively where, he was already handling tougher assignments defensively and doing a good job of it. We will see if his three-point shooting is closer to his rookie year of over 40% or his second season of 36%. Personally, I think he's closer to the shooter that he was as a rookie, but we'll see. Between Fox, DeRozan, and Sabonis, the open looks are definitely going to be there. And we will see if we can get like a little bit more of his version of aggressiveness is will he take the pull-up too after he gets like a DHO from Sabonis. Yeah, he's not going to get a super lot of ball handling reps with DeRozan and Fox here, but that's okay.